Look, right out the gate, this weapon banner is really good. At the same time, it's also kind of garbage, but like fancy garbage that your HOA wouldn't complain about being on the street for too long. But why is that exactly? Why is it both? How can it be both? You look at it and it has a lot of value, especially if you have characters like Xiangling, who's still looking for a good weapon, or Xingqiu with his best in slot on this banner. Of course, let's not also forget the fact that it has been a long time since Fischl has actually been on a banner. Like, what the hell? That is way too long. At least it's kind of getting made up for by she's actually being put on a good banner this time. And by that, I just mean she usually gets stuck on banners with 5 stars that are less desirable, like Albedo the first time around and a Klee rerun. Child was actually a good one. Good meta synergy there. And she's coming with one of her best in slot weapons, Stringless. So good chance to pick up both. Oz is basically 100% of her damage, and the Stringless will boost Oz considerably, as well as give elemental mastery, which is pretty good for her. But then of course, no weapon banner is without its flaws. Obviously, we got the Rain Slasher here, and the Rain Slasher is not as bad as a lot of people think. One, you can use it as an EM stick for Sayu, or you can actually use it on Diluc in the right team comps to be an actually quite effective weapon. It may not be the best, but it can work. And the Eye of Perception, it's okay. It's not a bad weapon, it's not a great weapon, but it has to compete with another 4-star, the Widsith, which is going to be a big topic of this video. And let's just get right into that. Kagura's Verity, Yae Miko's signature weapon. It's not bad, but it's not great either. And why is it not great? Well, that's because it is just like most other new 5-star weapons lately. When it's released alongside a new character, it is designed specifically for that character. And if it impacts another character, that's just a bonus. And what other characters does this actually impact? Well, the answer is easy, almost none of them. Since this weapon relies on building stacks with skill use, and those skill uses build skill damage, that means it is a heavily niche weapon. The only way you get a generally usable buff out of this weapon, other than its base attack and its crit damage offset, is by building all 3 stacks and then getting a generic elemental damage bonus, which at Refinement 1 is really not that high in comparison to other alternatives. Outside of Yae Miko, not many characters are actually going to want to use this thing, or can even use it reasonably. For all 5 of you Lisa mains out here, this might actually be a weapon you want to pick up. If you are a diehard Lisa main and you've been waiting for a weapon banner roll on, this probably is it. Now, obviously, I am not a theory crafter, so I'm not going to tell you that this is going to be Lisa's best in slot weapon. But if you're a diehard Lisa main, you know, go do the research for yourself, because I just think it's going to be good. But I am the furthest thing from a Lisa main you can possibly be with my low-level, unleveled Lisa that I don't plan on changing anytime soon. Now, if you main any of the other Catalyst users, this weapon is probably not even worth looking at, especially compared to Widsith. If you have a rank 5 Widsith, there's no way this thing is going to hold a candle to it on a character where skill damage is not the primary focus, especially if they can't even stack this thing, which does apply to pretty much all the Catalyst users we have outside of Lisa and Yae Miko. So now, what if you're some diehard Yae Miko stan, which there are a ton of you out there, and you really want her signature weapon? Well, if you're not going for this thing just because thematically you want it and it's hers, and that means you want it because you'll do anything for your boo-boo, if that is the case, you can pretty much stop this right here, and I would say roll on the banner, because there's a lot of wins. I haven't even talked about the Jade Cutter yet, which is one of the best swords we have, which leads me into one of the best parts about this banner. But I will also take this time to say that if you are an Ayaka main, you should probably just save for the Mist Splitter Reforged, because it is quite a bit better than the Jade Cutter, at least for characters who can utilize it perfectly. But you know, just also consider that maybe the Mist Splitter Reforged banner, when it comes back, is going to suck again. Maybe they're going to put something undesirable on there and you wouldn't want to roll for it or take the risk. But even with that being said, if you're not going to roll for Yae Miko and you're not some diehard Lisa main, this banner is basically worst case scenario, because this weapon is not very good for most of the Catalyst users we have who already have best in slot weapons, especially in their support roles. The 4 stars may be great, but there's a good chance that if you are asking yourself right now, should I roll in this weapon banner, then you might not be the kind of person that cares about 4 stars anymore. You might be swimming in them. Or maybe this is actually your first foray into a weapon banner and you're a free-to-play or a low spender. I mean, let's just be as frank as possible. When do I think you should roll on this weapon banner? 1. If both of these 5 stars are appealing to you. That means if you are going to roll for Yae Miko and you would like her weapon, or if you have someone who could currently use the Jade Cutter. I think the only time you should roll on a weapon banner if you are not a whale or some borderline whale is when both 5 stars are an absolute win for you, which is quite rare, but it is becoming more common every patch. It used to be that almost every weapon banner had some kind of trap weapon on it that was just absolute garbage for most people. But nowadays, we're getting some pretty damn good value weapon banners, especially like in the case of the Homa rerun. That weapon banner was insane. But even if you are free to play or a low spender and you really want to roll on this banner, again, make sure that you want Yae Miko. This sword will be usable by somebody someday. The Jade Cutter is so generic that literally any sword user could benefit from it in some way. Now for the 4 stars, Official's obviously making her grand return. She hasn't been on a banner in a long time, and this is going to be a lot of people's chances to pick up constellations for her and finally max her out. And if you're looking to really utilize Official and make the best out of her, Stringless is going to be a weapon you want, and refinements do quite a bit for her. If you use Xingqiu like most of us do, and you don't have an R5 sack sword yet, or especially if you don't have any sack swords yet, I would probably consider trying to pick up one copy of it at the very least, because it makes a huge difference for him, and he feels a lot better with it. Refinement 4 is also a very important milestone because that allows the cooldown to actually be less than his skill. And last but not least, as far as the meta weapons go on this list, the Wavebreaker's Fin. This weapon is not amazing by any stretch, but for a character like Xiangling, if you don't have some high refinement Dragon's Bane, or your catch is currently being used by like Raiden Shogun or somebody else for whatever reason, this is a pretty good weapon to pick up. For Xiangling's meta teams, she usually gets to stack this thing up quite high because she usually tends to be paired with people who at least have medium to high bursts. So if you're in the market for a Xiangling weapon, like this isn't bad. It's a pretty good weapon, solid, good stats, synergizes well with her team comps. Pretty solid pickup. Like you wouldn't be sad about getting this, trying to get whatever 5-star you want. And you know what? I would love to show you some footage comparing this weapon, the Kagura's Verity, to Widsith, but to be honest, I'm not rolling for this weapon. Why do I not want to roll for this weapon? Initially, I had planned on getting the weapon, but the more I thought about it and the more I compared it to Widsith, it just didn't make any sense. Widsith is a medium low attack 4-star weapon, but the Kagura's is a low attack 5-star. The crit damage though, not that different. 11.1%, not a big difference. But here is what did it in for me. 1, the Kagura's Verity special effect is mostly only good for skill damage, which sure, Yae Miko cares about her skill damage, but she also has a big meaty burst that I want to hit hard too, and Widsith will do a lot better at that. And also, one of the Widsith's biggest downsides is obviously the Elemental Mastery. Now, Elemental Mastery can be incredibly powerful when used in the right team, but there are some characters like Ningguang who still uses the Widsith, but whenever you roll the Elemental Mastery buff, it is worthless. Or if you use Yanfei, she doesn't exactly reliably proc a lot of elemental reactions, so she really only cares about 2 of them as well. But Yae Miko, on the other hand, she takes this Elemental Mastery and converts it with her Ascension into a bare minimum effect of 72% skill damage, which is insane. So even if you don't proc any elemental reactions, you're just getting a huge skill damage buff anyway, which is what the Kaguras would have given you, except it's actually higher than the Kaguras. And again, this is for R5, but I think it's perfectly fair to compare an R5 4-star weapon to a 5-star Refinement 1. I think we can also safely assume that there's a good chance that she will also be proccing elemental reactions, especially since we kind of want to build her with some EM, or at least EM does pretty well on her, so we should try to trigger some reactions with her. So that just makes the Widsith buff even better. But because of this, I'm not rolling for this weapon. Initially, I was going to because I was excited for the weapon, I was excited for Yae Miko, and I did want another Jade Cutter for when Ayato comes out. However, he's going to come out with his own signature weapon, so I'm just banking on that being better, and if not, well, then I guess he's stealing his sister's sword for a bit. So if you plan on rolling on this banner, regardless of any of the downsides I mentioned, just know that you should be willing to accept this weapon if you get it, and I hope you get Yae Miko to use it on, because if not, you're kind of getting a dead weapon, especially if you have a Widsith. It might be a while before another character that actually uses comes out. It's always a possibility. I'm sure it'll happen eventually. We always know that that character is going to come out with a weapon that's perfectly made for them, so this might not shine. I think this weapon was a dud. I think it looks kind of weird, I'm not gonna roll for it to test. That's someone else's job. I'm not wasting money on this piece of crap. I mean, yeah, it's not a piece of crap, but it's also kind of a piece of crap. Final thoughts, I think only roll for it if you want literally every weapon that's not Rain Slasher and Eye of Perception. There's better things to spend your money on. Just, you know, stay strong. Don't fall victim to new shiny toy syndrome. New things will come, better things. You know, you don't want to be broke when the next Staff of Homa comes out, and this certainly ain't it. And on a brighter, less depressing note, if you're wishing for Yae Miko, I wish you the best of luck. I hope she comes home quick, and if you lose the 50-50, I hope you lose it to someone you want. Thank you for watching, like the video, subscribe, all that stuff that makes the algorithm not hate my guts, and I'll see you in the next one.